What the heck, Bennett? Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. Raven! Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. Okay, the mic. I'm sorry. I won't mute it or unmute it again. I understand. I'm sorry. And Offline Fletcher, thank you so much. There were two other people, AKA and Joshua the Great. Thank you for the subs, guys. I appreciate it. A conservation show? Heck yeah, dude. Welcome. Thank you, Leslie. Alright. Okay, so I know that... Hi. Guys, I'm back. How weird is this? Thank you so much, Bouncy. Appreciate it. Yeah, this is Milo. He's not always here, but I do Kelsey! Thank you so much. Thank you, Nee, and thank you, Risp. I'm sorry, I'm terrible at saying your names. Thank you guys so much for the subs. It's so weird, being back. Okay, yes, his name is actually Milo. Yes, okay, good one, Maya. Yeah, alright. Well, I've been living with him for a couple months. He's just not always in my room. Yes, you. Hello. I think he thought that I wanted a paw. He's a really good dog. He's gonna be here. This is my brother's dog. His other dog is under the bed. She'll probably come out at some point on the podcast. High five. Heck yeah. So, he'll be here for the podcast. It's weird to be back. I feel like I haven't streamed in 3 weeks because that's pretty much true. I streamed like twice in the past 3 weeks being in Austin. On my channel, on my own channel. But we're back. We're back, and I'm really excited. You guys probably saw it on my Twitter today. We're talking to, thank you so much, Z's. Z's, you've been so generous with donations and gifted subs on my channel and on Miz's. I really appreciate that. Yeah, our guest today, command guest, is Damian. DamianExplores. He has a channel on Twitch. If you saw my tweet, there was a clip in there. He does insanely high quality streams. He does bird watching. He's a conservationist. He's a marine biology enthusiast. He's a wildlife photographer. Thank you so much, Michigan and Maya. That's me. Yep. Thank you both. Nameless and Shameless with 5 subs, guys. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. How many subs are we at? Look at that. That's nuts. Oh my gosh. Bomb Diggity got gifted a sub. Incredible. Guys, that's crazy. Okay. So. Thank you so much, Rax. Guys, it feels good to be back. I'm really excited. So we're going to talk to Damian today about photography, about bird watching. All donations today are going to go to Hawkwatch International. They do, oh my gosh, Joe Kid, you're insane. Again, Joe Kid on my channel, on Matt's channel, thank you so much for your support. You're so generous. Thank you so much. I lost my train of thought already. Donations today go to Hawkwatch International. Thank you so much, Spitfire. Oh my gosh. That's what I'm gonna name my next bird, by the way, maybe. I like that name, Spitfire. I think that's sick. Hawkwatch International does educate. Oh my gosh, Z's, thank you so much. Holy crap, you guys. Actually insane. 2,000 subs again. Welcome back. Oh my god. Okay, almost. That's okay. That's okay. Giddy, thank you so much. All right, first $50 of the day. First $50 of the day are going to Hawkwatch International. Hawkwatch International will talk more about it on the podcast. Damian knows more about it than I do. I didn't know about the organization before he requested it as the nonprofit that we're using today, but they do education programs to teach kids about birds of prey and to teach an appreciation of birds of prey. And 2,000 subs, incredible. Thank you so much. Because of Citrus, you're insane. Thank you so much, dude. Holy shit. Famous, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, Zoyo. Okay, thank you so much. And she's very cute. Thank you so much. Pet the dog, you got it. So, we're going to talk to Damian today, guys. It's going to be a really casual conversation. We'll talk more to him about it today, but he went to school for tech and stuff like that. So he does all this as a hobby, but he's very, very passionate. He's not a biologist. He's not an ornithologist, but he does care a lot, and he does some really cool stuff on Twitch. So we're gonna talk. We're gonna talk to him for a while. It's gonna be super casual, and should be really fun. So I'm going to put on this. How'd you guys feel about the music today? Huh? Did you love it? Patriot, thank you so much. It's poop. I hated it. Smile. Okay, so I have to do these things. If you guys have better royalty-free music, please send it to me or put it in my music channel on Discord. But I need to start doing royalty-free music at the beginning of the podcast. Giddy with 7 subs. Thank you so much. Holy cow. I have to use royalty-free music at the beginning of these podcasts so that the VODs don't get muted, because we're going to start posting them to YouTube, because I don't want... I think pretty much unedited they're going to be on YouTube, but I don't want to lose them. I think that they should be up there. Thank you so much. Here you go, Hawk Place. Appreciate it. So they're going to start going up on YouTube, and I don't want the mods muted and the VODs muted. So that's why the music's like that. Bear with me. I'll try to find better royalty-free music, but we'll figure that out as we go. So let me put the start screen back on. Let me do a couple things, and then we'll call in Damian and we'll start the podcast. Cool? Good? Smiles? Everybody happy? Everybody excited? Smile. Smile, 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 smile. Good. Cool. Thank you so much for all the subs today. You guys are insane. I'm so excited to be back. I really am. I'm really happy. I'll see you guys in a second. What the heck? Citrus, thank you so much. Oh my gosh. You guys are insane. Also, you guys already know Citrus made this start screen, so he's incredible. Pogs in chat for Citrus.
Hello. I'm doing well. Thank you so, thank you so much for having me on. I'm very excited to be here.
I was muted for them, but not for you.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Okay.
Thank you for telling me. See, this is so nice. I got a couple "we can't hear you" smiles instead of all Pepe laughs. You guys are learning. I appreciate that. Um, so Damien, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm really excited. Your chat has so much energy. It's
I know.
really intense. It's awesome, and I'm really excited to talk about everything
Me
birding on
too.
Twitch.
Yeah, did you guys see my tweet? How many? Put a one in chat if you saw the tweet with the clip that I put. Did you see the clip that I did put up, Damien?
I did. I
Of
did.
the eagle? Oh my gosh, so cool. So we got guys. He sent me like a bunch of clips and videos and stuff, so we get to look at them and talk about them and talk about the context of those clips today. Um, when did you start your channel?
So I started my channel a year ago, a little more than a year ago,
Uh-huh.
and it was it was initially a thing about I wasn't actually planning on bird watching. I was really new to Twitch. I didn't know what uh all you could do on Twitch. I had sort of always thought of Twitch as a place to see other people play games, and that changed pretty radically when I was watching Shroud, and he rated a GTA 5 RP player, and that kind of blew my mind. I was like, oh, okay, so this is very different. This is a different way of I guess using Twitch,
Uh huh.
and then that person that I started watching, I started getting really into to GTA 5 RP. I actually that's kind of the reason I started twitching or streaming was that I got onto NoPixel and decided that I wanted to stream that. And in between all that, somebody rated a outdoor IRL streamer,
Uh huh.
and that was the moment of like, you wait a minute, you can go outside
Yeah.
and still be on Twitch, and that sort of immediately plugged into what I had been doing for the last 10 to 15 years, which is wildlife photography and videography. I was like, I need to find out a way to take what I'm doing out in the field and bring it to Twitch, and
Yeah.
that's where the channel is now sort of came from.
That's so cool. I was trying to remember when I found your channel. I don't I don't know how. I don't know if it was through American Eagle Foundation. Also, hi Connor, who's here in chat. Hi.
Yes. Yes.
It was through them.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So it was Challenger Unknown is a person from my community who's put together this Discord of streamers that the animal streamers essentially, or wildlife streamers.
Uh huh. Yeah, I'm in
He
that Discord.
Right, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and so I had previously somebody had brought up American Eagle Foundation to me before, and so we had connected on Twitch, and then in that Discord, that's where it mentioned that he was going onto your show, and so I tuned
Oh
in, and
yeah.
that's kind of where we connected.
Yeah, you rated or you
Hmm.
hosted that
Yeah, yeah,
podcast. That's right.
yeah.
But I think I oh no, you're right. I didn't know about your channel before that. That's crazy. It feels so long ago. That is
Right.
so weird. Um yeah, guys, so he on the first podcast, Damien hosted my channel after he finished streaming, and then I checked out his channel, and then I like whispered you or something. And we talked
Right.
we had a call on Discord like a while ago about this. It's been a long time coming. Um, I just want to show them. Like, I want to show them a clip. Here, let me pull up the clip that I posted on Twitter, because that's kind of already out there. Where was
Right.
this? The eagle bathing.
Oh, the eagle bathing, that was at so there's a place called Union Bay Nature Area. It's actually right next to the University of Wisconsin here in Seattle. And for some reason, this particular area, it's funny because when I first started, um, pretty much almost a year from where I shot this stream. When I first started, it was the same deal. There was a huge mature bald eagle just kind of hanging out in the water. I think it's because it's shallow and there might be several nests nearby. It We ended up seeing another one, and it just spent 10 minutes very I never really actually watched how bald eagles I guess bathe, and they do that they do that little sort of dip in the water because they're just too big to completely submerge themselves.
Yeah.
And so spending 10 minutes essentially watching this bald eagle uh, bathe was pretty amazing.
It's so
It just
cool.
it just
Thank you so
happens, you know,
much.
these things.
Thank you.
There's impossible to plan for wildlife encounters out and about, and so having that just sort of happening while we were streaming, that's kind of been the every single experience for the last year has been like, is this really happening? This is happening. All right.
Yeah. Sorry, there's a typo in your name, and I'm trying to figure out. I don't know how to change it.
Oh.
Because everybody else in the overlay, there's a typo in
Oh.
your name.
Oh.
And this is where my like lack of tech knowledge shows. I don't know anything about this. Also, I've seen you guys in chat saying it. I know the I and the A is switched in your name. I'm sorry about that. I
That's
thought
okay.
I had it all figured out. Hang on. What was I talking about? Okay, the quality on your I'm sure you get this all the time. The quality on your streams is absolutely insane. Like it's crazy that you can live stream and it looks like that. Like how did you get into photography? Did you go to school for that? Did we talk about this before?
No, we didn't. We didn't talk about this before. Photography's kind of always been this thing for me. I, my dad gave me a camera when I was 10, when he let me handle like his nice sort of large professional camera or whatever, and he just let me start taking pictures, and I loved it. And this was still like, it wasn't a digital camera, it was film, so we still had to go through the whole thing of going to a film lab and having it developed and having those results back. And it just sort of became this thing that I loved doing. I didn't really have too much of a focus in my photography. I was always attracted to nature
Yeah.
and to the outdoors,
Mm-hmm.
um, but where I grew up didn't have a lot of emphasis on like wildlife education. There wasn't really an Audubon group or society or bird watchers or anything that would kind of
Thank you
connect
so
me
much.
with nature or wildlife. And so it just sort of became this thing where I'd go out and take pictures in the yard or go walking or something like that. But it wasn't ever a focused focused on wildlife. And eventually, uh, after uh, after I moved away from there and sort of grew up and started focusing a little bit more on trying to figure out what I wanted to do, somebody introduced me to birdwatching. My partner of 15 years, 14 years, introduced me to birdwatching, and right at that time, I decided to make a serious effort in my photography. I I took out a loan and got myself my first digital camera, and decided that was the thing that I wanted to do. I wanted to really focus on coming up with some kind of a focus, and then birdwatching came along, and that opened my eyes to all sorts of things. And then they sort of they
Sorry.
sort of no, it's fine. Suddenly that combined together, and it's been an insane adventure since then. It's kind of
That's
crazy to think about how it's gone.
That's so cool. You know what I just realized is before we talk about all that, we should talk about Hawkwatch International because we have
Oh yeah.
gotten we're at $96 worth of
Oh,
donations
that's
already, which is
amazing.
crazy. Thank you guys so
Oh,
much.
thank you.
But I looked up. I wasn't familiar with Hawkwatch until you told me about them. But I looked them up last night and they're incredible. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
super up my alley, like what I'm into. But here's the website, you guys. Also, you can do command. What's the command? Command HW in chat to get more information to get to this website. But you want to tell us about Hawkwatch or why you picked this one?
Yes. Yeah. So Hawkwatch International, they have a network of watch stations across most of the U.S. I think the number was in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And this is so hawk migrations or raptor migrations are they cover the entire continent. And so being able to monitor their population numbers, having monitoring stations in the path of their migration is sort of an incredibly important way of determining their conservation status, just the health of their population. And so this organization has set up all of these watch stations across the U.S. Not only do they do that, they do a lot of citizen science. Teaching people how to, or not teaching people, but citizen science around golden eagles and sort of the threat to their population. They do classroom activities. They have ambassador birds. They focus a lot on habitat conservation.
Mm-hmm.
So they do a wide range of conservation activities, and they do a fantastic job at it, as
Mm-hmm.
well as being extremely transparent about how they use their funds. They're incredibly efficient in the way that they use their funds in terms of the percentage that goes towards conservation activities. So all that sort of combined made me really want to support them with this conservation cast. Especially, I think a lot too is having spent the last year pretty much outdoors consistently. I've had the opportunity of seeing a lot more birds of prey than I had ever seen in my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
And that has really sort of, I guess, connected me with what I'm seeing a lot more and wanting to contribute in some kind of way to their conservation. So that also kind of played a part in selecting Hawkwatch International.
Yeah. Connor from American Eagle Foundation just donated $10. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Connor.
We need the hawk's weight because we have this, like, I don't know how much. I mean, I guess we don't actually know. Yeah, it depends.
Yeah, it depends.
We have, there's I guess it's not really a meme, but in my community, they like to ask how much the animals weigh that we're talking about, and they add it to the spam. It's in the chat. I don't know if you're looking at chat, but yeah. So we'll get there, guys. I watched this video on Hawkwatch International last night, and I kind of want to play it for the stream. It is, guys, it's over 3 minutes. I always say that there's like a 3-minute attention span, or 3-minute attention span, but I kind of want to watch this whole thing because it's really cool, and it shows what they do, and gives a feel for the organization, like, as a whole. So it's 4 minutes and 11 seconds, you guys. But yeah, let me play this video. It's on their About Us page if you want to look at what I'm looking at.
Awesome.
How many of you have ever seen a hawk flying in the sky? How many of you want your grandkids to see that?
Hawkwatch International is a conservation organization dedicated to monitoring and protecting raptors, hawks, eagles, and other birds of prey. We do that through science and education, and although we're a small group, we have a core of volunteers and partners that help us along the way.
I really believe that the work that Hawkwatch International has been doing for the last 25 years is very important for raptor conservation. Of course, we started with fall migration work where we've been able to document trends in a variety of species, including declines in American kestrels and golden eagles, which has led to increased research interest by a variety of entities.
We operate the largest single coordinated network of raptor migration monitoring sites in the world. This allows us to understand the ups and downs of raptor population trends. One of the reasons we work with raptors is because they're an apex predator, which means they're at the top of their food chain. And very often apex predators are really good indicators of ecosystem health. And so when we see something going wrong with raptor populations, we have a pretty good guess that there's something deeper going wrong within the larger ecosystem. This information allows us to focus our research efforts and better understand conservation needs. For example, for many years we've been tracking the population decline of American kestrels at our migration sites.
I have a
Now
soft
we're
spot
working
for
closely with
kestrels.
several partners and hundreds of citizen scientists, volunteers, to investigate the potential causes of population declines so that we can take immediate conservation action and help protect American kestrels.
Education is a really important piece of what we do at Hawkwatch International. We provide community programs to thousands of people each year, varying from programs at libraries and community centers and festivals to school groups in both formal and informal settings. We also really work to inspire passion in the general public through education.
We've worked with industry and private landowners to provide them with resource management plans, avian protection plans, habitat improvement plans. We did surveys out in Colorado in these pinyon juniper habitats that before weren't known to support nesting raptors, but we documented accipiters, basically these sharp-shinned Cooper's hawks and goshawks nesting in these areas. And as a result, we produced a technical note describing the type of habitats they live in and basically making land managers aware that this is something they need to consider when they're out there in these habitats. If they're prescribing some type of treatment or allowing drilling to go forward, now they're actually doing surveys for these raptors when they weren't in the past.
Damian, are you looking at the stream right now?
Yeah.
What kind of owl is this?
I think that's a pygmy owl.
Okay, I don't know, but it's so cute.
Our goal is
Yeah,
to
I'm not
minimize
familiar with that owl.
some of the threats that raptors face on a daily basis. And those threats include habitat loss, contamination, collision with vehicles, climate change, and many other things. We never want to see another story like the California condor or the peregrine falcon or the bald eagle, where these species were close to the edge of extinction. We're really working for a future where our kids and our grandkids can look up in the sky and see that soaring bald eagle just as we do. And we hope you'll join us in this important work.
All right. Okay, cool. Yeah, I wanted to show that video because it's so, I mean, it's so well done and just like,
Yeah.
it's so neat. So there you go, guys. So donations today go to Hawkwatch International. That was the video that we just watched if you're just tuning in here. But cool. I love that you picked them. What a cool organization. I love that you're into education and stuff too, and that you're doing that on Twitch. I didn't realize when I got in that it's growing, you know? People doing like science and education and stuff on Twitch. I think it's so cool. I'm so excited about it.
Yes. Actually, so that's one of the communities that has embraced me and supported me when I was starting out, and it's actually sort of ballooned into this very, very large community. It's called the Knowledge Fellowship, and it's really just a community of people that support educational streamers, and the list is really, really large. I mean, there's people who are streaming geology, quantum mechanics, astronomy. It's the size of Twitch EDU is large enough. Actually, they're going to have a panel at TwitchCon.
Yeah, I heard about that.
So yes, that's how large it's growing, or how much it's growing on Twitch, and it's really, really exciting to see people adopt Twitch as a form of being able to educate or perform science communication.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And you do some of that on your stream. I mean, you're walking around, but you're talking to your viewers, you know, and kind of teaching them about stuff. Is that?
Yeah. So I, as you kind of mentioned at the beginning, I'm not a trained ornithologist.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just a sort of a moderately experienced bird watcher. I know a certain amount of species, but plenty of times when we're out and about and we're focusing on a particular bird, I I don't know exactly what we're looking at, and that has sort of turned into sort of like live learning out in the field
Mhm.
a little bit. It's been really fantastic to have experienced bird watchers or other people doing science join in and chat. Sometimes they'll share a fact, a conservation fact, or they'll help with the ID of the bird that we're looking at. But the other thing that we do tend to do a lot when we are out and about and seeing behavior, for example, is that it will generate questions. And that's
Mhm.
actually one of the things that I find the most rewarding about streaming on Twitch is that it engages people a lot.
Mhm.
It's that it's such a dramatic difference from posting something on Twitter or Instagram. I'm not saying that that's wrong or less effective, but it's a very different kind of experience when you're seeing something live and then you're able to ask questions about it and
Mhm.
engage in a conversation about it. And so, as an example of this is that um, we'll be walking around and I'll have the wide angle up when we're walking and we'll see a somebody will ask like what's up with all of these dry sort of upright logs, like what are those all dead trees, why are they dead,
Mhm.
what's going on there. And so then we can actually talk about, well, those are snags and those are essentially upright compost piles and they provide habitat for all sorts of different types of birds, and they attract bugs that then can feed woodpeckers. For example, we've seen pileated woodpeckers and downy woodpeckers and hairy woodpeckers just almost entirely on those snags, and it turns into a whole conversation, and it becomes a topic that we can discuss and learn from. And that's the addictive part of, for me, of streaming on Twitch is once somebody sees something, any kind of behavior or a species, something happens because
Mhm.
something is going to happen. Then it just leads to conversations, and either I learn something or we all learn something together in chat, and that's that's it for me.
That's a beautiful way of thinking about it. That's true. I never really thought about it like that. Um, it definitely is. There's so much potential on Twitch for teaching people. You know, like even with me. Thank you. With me, like you see in chat. I mean, when you bring an animal on stream or you start talking about nature or whatever, like they're genuinely interested. It's a younger demographic, but it's so important to reach. I think that Twitch is a fantastic way of reaching them. So I'm super glad that you're on Twitch and that there's a whole like there being a panel is so cool.
Yes,
Anonymous with $30. Thank you so much. We're at $160 already, guys.
thank
Thank
you.
you so much. So cool. Um, let's okay. I want to watch a clip. What clip do you want me to go in order that you sent me, or does it matter? Or...
It doesn't matter. I mean, yeah, we can, you just pick a clip and we'll talk about it.
Okay, I'm just gonna start with the snow geese, the first clip.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, this is crazy. Okay, so where was this?
So this was at
Guys,
my
this is
favorite.
on stream. I'm sorry, I can't. The
No,
quality. I'm gonna say that every time I pull up a clip.
no. So this is out in Skagit County, or also known as the Skagit Valley. It's about an hour north of Seattle,
Uh huh.
and um, this area is famous for snow geese. We're talking about probably 5 to 10,000 snow geese in that field alone.
Jeez.
They spend their winter in this area, and it actually drives tourism to this area. If you visit the city of Conway, which is right next to this area, they have things like snow goose produce and ice cream shops along this thing. So this
Oh,
actually
cool.
drives people to visit the area. It's a fairly rural area, but right next to this field is the Skagit Wildlife Area, which is the place that we tend to spend our time there, and we tend to spend most of our time there. What I was trying to say, and so I was hoping that we would have an opportunity to see snow geese. I'd kind of talked them up a little bit before the winter period, and said, we might have a chance at seeing 10,000 snow geese sort of take off and fly.
Yeah.
And that it was a thing where I was driving to the location one day, and right next to where I park, there they are, about 10,000 snow geese. And
Yeah.
so we got to actually have an unobstructed view of it, because sometimes they can be far into somebody's field, and it's just not something accessible, without respecting property rights and all that good stuff. So it just it turned into probably the most memorable experience, I think, so far on stream. And the second clip that I included on that, I would actually encourage with audio.
Okay.
Most of my clips don't have audio,
Mhm.
or I wouldn't encourage the audio. But that second one from the snow geese, because we were about to we had sort of finished the stream, and we were about to raid someone, and because we had just sort of been hanging out and watching those geese, and then they all, well, I yeah, check out the
Yeah,
clip.
let me play it. Okay, I'll play it with the audio too. Thank you, Rob, for the $35. All right, here we go.
Hit this. Let's get
Those mountains are crazy too.
Oh, hold on. Hold on. No, we're staying.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, having
That is insane. I can't believe this is on stream.
yeah, I've never had that amount of birds suddenly just take off and fly over me. It's a really, I'm so glad that I managed to get the sound of it all, because it's whew.
No kidding.
Wow, that was so cool.
Oh my gosh, that's so crazy. That's so beautiful. That's unbelievable. That, like, how cool is that? Birdwatching is a lot of, like, I get the thrill. You like get lucky. Like, get lucky with things like that. That's like a once in a lifetime experience, and for that to be on stream too, that is so cool.
Yeah, that's sort of been that's been the theme for the year that I've been streaming, is having moments like that, having completely unexpected behavior, or birds show up. So like, they're peregrine falcons.
Mhm.
I love peregrine falcons, and they're not very common to see here. And we've seen, I think we saw 3 or 4, including at some point we saw a pair of them actually hunting in starling murmurations.
Whoa.
And it's just,
I have this one peregrine falcon video. Should I play that?
yeah,
No?
definitely.
Okay, cool. Here we go. This is like easily one of my favorite falcons. I think they're so cool. It's so fluffy. Where was this peregrine at?
So this was at another sort of conservation area put aside by the city of Everett, and it's called Spencer Island. It's next to the Snohomish River, and is a sort of a flooded island that they've made kind of into an estuary, essentially. And it's such an amazing confluence of life there, and we saw that peregrine falcon there.
That's so cool. Do you have a favorite bird?
I do. Oh my gosh. There's a long story attached to it, though.
Okay.
So
Dude,
I love Stellar's jays so much.
Panda just donated $200. What the heck?
Cow.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that.
That's incredible.
Awesome.
We're at $445, guys. Insane. Thank you so much, Panda. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, continue. Sorry. Your favorite bird.
Yeah, so Stellar's jays. So Stellar jays are a type of corvid, and in general, I love all corvids.
Me too.
Corvids are incredibly intelligent, and the research around them is just constantly awe-inspiring. They have they demonstrated theory of mind so that they're aware of the preferences of another bird. All sorts of amazing. I could talk about corporate intelligence for a long time, but
Mm-hmm.
to Stellar Jays, to the point, to the story. So at my previous place, before I was living here, we had a stand of Douglas firs
Mm-hmm.
around our house, and that was super convenient. It tended to attract a lot of different types of bird species, and we suddenly realized that our backyard had turned into this Stellar Jay's family's sort of backyard, in that they adopted our backyard as their area.
Mm-hmm.
And the younger birds were sort of sunning themselves and laying out on our deck, and um, and we had feeders. And at some point, we noticed that they were bearing peanuts in our planter. Our planter didn't have any. One of our planters didn't have any flowers or anything. They were just. It was right next to our kitchen window, and they were bearing peanuts in there. And so we thought it would be fun to bury some additional peanuts, so kind of make a peanut feeder for them,
Uh-huh.
uh, but kind of surprise them. And we did this, and they freaked out. We had four Stellar's Jays that were just sort of going crazy, and that you just see like these um, dirt flying out from all little mounds of dirt flying from our planter, and these incredibly excited jays finding all of these peanuts. And from that moment on, I'm sure a lot of people will say this is totally food motivated, but I'll counter that here in a moment. But after that, they just stayed hanging out in the backyard. It's like
Uh-huh.
we were friends at that point. They were cool with us, and they started watching us. They started watching us through the kitchen window, and it wasn't necessarily begging behavior.
Mm-hmm.
They were just they would just stare at us through the window and look at us intently. Especially one of the younger birds just kept on. They would follow us around as we were like washing dishes or making food. Sometimes they would fly from windowsill to windowsill, and of course we kept on refilling the feeder and the peanuts. And but it got to a point where like we'd come out in the morning to make tea, and they'd fly across the street to come and like just hang out in the tree and watch us.
That's
And
so
even
cool.
the feeder was full. And so after a while, we started sort of giving them personalities and names based on the personalities that they display. But you start noticing their behavior. You start noticing sort of their quirks, whether one was more playful and curious, while there was one that was fairly grumpy and always wanted us to refill the feeder, and that was it, and then he would just leave. Just different. We spent pretty much almost an entire year as essentially like bird friends.
That's so cool.
That's after having that kind of a close encounter with Stellar Jays, and seeing their behavior and how complex it was, and it was interesting having our friends over in the backyard. If friends would come over, they were not happy. They were
Mm-hmm.
like, we don't want to be here. But once everybody left and we were hanging out in the backyard, then everything was fine.
That's so
And so
interesting.
after that, they've I mean, as I mentioned, I mean, I love corvids, their intelligence, their tool making,
Mm-hmm.
their ability to cache things in thousands of places. There's so much to corvids. And but after that is like this has to be my favorite bird. We Every time we in our new place we hear the kind of yirping call of a Stellar jay, we're like, our children.
I've seen these birds a lot, but I didn't know that that's what they were called. My bird identification is horrible. Horrible. Also, someone in chat just said, does she know there's a picture of a bird in the middle of the screen? Yes, I do know that. Thank you for letting me know. That's a cool story. I love that. I wish I had a cool story like that. Joe Kid with $52 to finish off the $500 goal.
That's
Joe
awesome.
Kid,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much. We're at $500 for Hawkwatch International. Guys, if you're just coming in here, Hawkwatch International does education, and they have migration towers for birds of prey for conservation and to teach people about birds. So That's awesome. Thank you so much, Joe Kid. You're incredible. Okay, so stellar days are your favorite bird. What is my favorite bird? I said when we were watching that video that I have a soft spot for kestrels. But I don't know if they're my favorite bird. That's a really hard question.
Kestrels are awesome.
I think they're so cute. Like, I just,
Yes.
oh my gosh, I love them.
I love watching them hover hunt. I think that's probably, it's so cool to see this tiny little bird just suspended in the air and then diving down for an insect or a rat or something. And their colors are amazing.
They're so neat. Oh, thank you, Buckley. Can we change this donation goal? So I'm not at all tech savvy, as you've probably figured out. You are. You went to school for tech, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It was pretty much just mostly, I guess computer engineering would be the best way to describe it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot has changed since then. But I primarily did networking, so I just communication networks,
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much what I did for most of my career. And I don't do that anymore at the moment, but that did come a little bit in handy with the whole streaming from really remote places. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean that kind of gives a window into why your stream is so impressive.
Well, I mean, I think that's I certainly didn't blaze a path here at all. I do want to give a lot of credit to Gun Run. So the Gun Run backpack, I'm sure a lot of your viewers are familiar with it. So many people use it to do so many amazing things on Twitch, and so there is definitely the Gun Run backpack and the components that make that possible, especially the live view encoders. So that thing allows me to use a lot of different cell phone connections and sort of combine the bandwidth from a lot of different providers,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the kind of critical component of being able to stream from places like Skagit Valley out in the middle of nowhere is that. And so that was the Gun Run backpack's design was definitely a huge help and inspiration in getting me to design what I currently use. So my design is just a little bit different. I just added a multicam sort of capability to it, the ability to use multiple cameras. I can use up to 4. I can't carry 4 cameras with me, but so that's the way that I can carry a tripod and my SLR and my zoom lens, and then I can use that we can switch back and forth, and then that way we're not just stuck on a super wide angle image, because that's great to show people the habitat, the environment that we're walking in. And I really enjoy that sort of first person point of view, but then that wouldn't lend itself very well to being able to show you birds. And that was the problem that I really needed to solve more than anything, was how can I show people like really, really close up views of birds.
Right.
And that was also sort of a lucky kind of break in the technology of a camera. The kind of zoom that I'm getting isn't really quite possible with the small lens that I'm using. But because of a sort of a quirk of the camera that I'm using, we end up getting a sort of like a 5x multiplier. So I'm seeing a couple questions was like, what zoom? So it's pretty much equivalent to like 2800 millimeters. It's a huge amount of zoom, and it's just a fact of being able to take a crop of the camera sensor. If everybody was curious about how that works, but yeah, it just happens to work out that I can carry a fairly small light setup. It's about 15 pounds on my left sort of.
I was gonna ask how much. It's only 15 pounds.
Well, not the whole setup. The whole setup is 45 pounds.
Okay, that's serious.
Yeah.
To like walk around like that.
Yeah, I had to invest in a backpack that I could get uh, a waist belt, so I could redistribute the weight.
Yeah.
Um, so because most of it is batteries, and then there's the encoders and the modems and all that stuff, and then there's the separate sort of camera setup, and so it's pretty heavy, and unfortunately I haven't actually been able to go out bird watching in a little bit more over than a week because I actually strained my lower back, and so I've been doing just sort of walking streams with a lighter backpack setup.
Mm-hmm.
But my back is getting better, so I'm actually kind of hoping to be able to go out maybe even tomorrow.
Oh,
But
neat.
yeah, the the weight is definitely a challenge and has been a challenge, kind of one of those things that I just sort of keep working on. But 45 pounds is sort of where it's stayed, and it's doable. I can't really do like a 10-hour stream, but I can head out. We've done 4 to 5, sometimes 6 hours. I think our longest stream has been 7 hours with all the gear. So that's yeah.
That's impressive. Jeez. Oh, well, there you guys go. Hey, 45 pounds. There's your weight. Okay, so Damian's setup is 45 pounds. I've already seen a couple of you add that to your happy spam thing. Let me play another clip while we're talking about your setup. So let's see. I have bald eagle eating.
Right.
Ooh,
Yes.
cool. Oh, this will be fun to talk about. Okay. How far away are you? And do you have an idea of like how far from this bird you are?
In that case, I'm probably maybe 100 to 150 feet. I'm pretty far away.
Yeah.
I didn't include the zoom in kind of process. There's I think one of the clips of the bald eagle family story that I kind of put together has an example of the zoom in. But I wanted to include this clip because we'd never really seen feeding behavior
Mm-hmm.
from bald eagles on stream, and this one sort of just happened in front of us suddenly, and it was just so impressive to see it. Just, I mean, it was about 5 minutes long. I cut this down to a minute, but watching it just disappear, the the
Yeah.
um, the bone like that was really incredible to see live happen in front of us.
Here's what he's talking about, guys. That is crazy.
It's like it just disappeared. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Wow.
um,
That's so cool. Do you see, is it like every stream that you see I mean you see birds and stuff every stream? Is that what you
yeah.
mostly go out to find birds?
Mostly we do go out to see birds. We've done a lot of different types of other streams. Um, we've gone tide pooling.
Uh-huh.
So we went out to the Olympic coast and did some tide pooling out there, which was pretty amazing. And we've also done some sort of astronomy streams,
Oh,
astrophotography streams. We've done
cool.
like the lunar eclipse. We streamed the Perseid meteor showers last year, and
That's awesome.
we'll look at planets occasionally, like Jupiter and Saturn. Um, but yeah, it's mostly birds, and I think that's the thing that I like to emphasize with the channel is that bird watching is accessible. It's probably
Yes.
the most accessible way of encountering wildlife,
Mm-hmm.
and and that's sort of seen, I think, in the fact that every time we go out, I mean, I do pick my locations carefully in the sense that I want it to be large enough to do a long stream, and I want the audio to be fairly relaxing as much as possible, and I don't want it to be like right next to a busy highway. There's plenty of great places to bird, but sometimes they're just not great for streaming.
Mm-hmm.
But what I do tend to emphasize every time we go out is people ask me, it's the most common question: how do I get into streaming? How can I go to a place to go bird watching? Sorry, not streaming, but bird watching. How can I
Mm-hmm.
go to a place to bird watch? And a lot of times they assume that just because they're in a city environment, they can't go bird watching. That there isn't
Mm-hmm.
going to be some kind of large green space. And what I tend to respond is go to ebird.org/explore and find a birding hotspot, and I guarantee you there's going to be one close to you. Um, there's going to be a small pond, a lake, a park, some sort of small beach area, some kind of place that very dedicated bird watchers have gone to and repeatedly submitted birdwatching reports
Oh,
from.
cool.
And that is the most accessible way that you can start birdwatching right now, is just find your location that's near to you and go and check it out. And so that's what we do every day, is we try and, or not every day, but we as much as possible, we go
Yeah.
to we go to different locations that tend to be fairly active birding hotspots, and we'll see the change in seasons, the change in sort of what kind of species change across the seasons, the migration patterns. We don't we yeah we just continuously visit those hotspots, and I'm always looking for new hotspots to go and stream from. It's challenging to find, again, that place that has the perfect reception, large enough of a space, that sort of thing,
Yeah.
and
That's so cool.
that I can also stream from. That's the other thing too, because
Right.
I definitely am. Uh, I will bring a lot of attention. I bring a lot of attention to myself because I am carrying a ridiculous amount of things, and I'm talking to myself essentially to
Right.
a phone that's attached to my wrist.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, I get it. I've done one IRL stream on my own channel, and I was so nervous. And that was in a restaurant. I feel like I would be, yeah, I would definitely prefer being outside, but yeah, it can be awkward for sure. You said that you went tide pooling on stream.
Yeah.
Is that what this anemone video is?
Yeah. Actually, no. So that is the underwater ROV, remote operated vehicle. So I
You streamed
invested.
that?
Yeah. So
Oh my
I invested in an ROV because, other than bird watching, my other sort of huge passion is the ocean and underwater life. And my dream of my streaming dream, like that lofty goal, has
Yeah.
always been to take people underwater.
Oh my
I
gosh, that's so cool. Is there anybody else doing that? Are you the only person who's gone like underwater on stream? I'm new to Twitch
No.
also.
No. So I don't want to claim being the first. There's been different approaches to going underwater. I know that there's been a couple other streamers that have actually employed an ROV. So I don't want to claim being the first, but I do hope that I can take you under the Puget Sound, which is an amazing place here in the Seattle area, and show you things like um, giant Pacific octopuses and six-gill sharks and all sorts of cool invertebrate life. So I'm hoping that'll happen here pretty soon. I had to kind of pause that a little bit because first we had really high winds, which is kind of a problem
Mm-hmm.
for streaming from an ROV. The surface wind drags your tether, and then that gets tangled up, and it can get really dangerous. And then the other issue is that the with the summer here in the Puget Sound, the water warms up, and
Uh-huh.
that turns into plankton bloom,
Uh-huh.
and that essentially, it's a good thing. It's a normal process, but it means that the water turns into essentially like pea soup.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really
It's
hard
hard
to
to
see
see.
things.
Yeah.
It's very, very hard to see things. But I'm really excited. I got a text from one of my diving friends, and they're like, the visibility is incredible. Things are
Uh-huh.
clearing up, and six-gill sharks have been reported in the area. These are really, really ancient sharks. Their closest relative lived 200 million years ago in the fossil record. They tend to spend most of their life
Yeah.
at like 1,800 feet, very, very deep. It's really, really difficult to have an encounter to see these sharks. But
Mm-hmm.
here in the Puget Sound, they actually come up to reasonable depths, and can actually be seen by divers. And so my dream, my stream dream is to be able to spot one of these 6-gill sharks with
Yeah.
ROV on stream. And
That
so we're
is
going to try.
so cool.
I'm hoping we're going to try that soon. I'm hoping we're going to try that soon.
Caterino, thank you so much for the 257 viewer host. I love you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, okay, so I want to show this clip on stream. So this is, how many streams have you done underwater?
Just a few.
Just a few? Okay.
Yeah.
So here's
yeah,
a clip from one of them. Guys, can you explain to them what this is? Because I know nothing about marine biology.
Yeah, so these are plumose anemones. These are cnidarians. So they're a really sort of ancient. They're the first animals that developed a sensory net in their body. They have a single sort of cavity for digestion, and it's central to their body. And then they have these sort of frilly arms, or and I'm not using the correct term here, but they're really cool. They're extremely colorful. There's a huge variety of plumose anemones, or anemones here in the Puget Sound, but these specifically are plumose anemones. And this is one of the sort of structures that we found while we were streaming on the ROV.
So the ROV, what does it look like? Like,
I don't.
is it literally like
kind
roll around on the seafloor? It looks like a vehicle, or
I can actually get it. It's happens to be stored underneath there.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Hold on one sec.
Y'all, if this isn't the coolest streamer on Twitch, I don't know.
So this is super cool. I didn't realize that these things had become so small and so effective. So this is called a Gladius Mini, and
Whoa.
it fits in a backpack, and it lasts 2 hours in the water. It has two 1200 lumen lights. It can actually send a HD signal up its tether, and so from the tether, I can put that into my multicam system, and I can essentially stream from underwater and still talk at the same time. So I can actually, you're hearing the audio on my shoulder camera, but you're seeing the video from underwater. And this can go to 300 feet, which is something that a depth that I would never be able to reach as a diver. So the divers typically, if you're unless you're a technically certified diver, you really can't go past 100 feet of depth, which tends to limit you in where you can go and what you can see. But this can go to 300 feet, and so that's the kind of really I like this. This was something that I had been trying to figure out a way to stream underwater. I had plans of having full face mask, and I was building a custom underwater housing for in order to have like chat underwater. I was going to have like a buoy above me. I'm still planning this. It's still kind of like a far off sort of dream to do. I do really want to stream from underwater while I'm underwater.
Yeah.
And so I have the design, and I have a lot of gear for it. I have a full face mask so that I could talk while I was underwater. But it's really intense, and there's a lot of safety issues. I had to talk a lot with sort of my dive mentor, who's trained me in rescue diving, and they're like, there's a lot of entanglement stuff going on here, and you got to have a safety diver with you, and so that means roping in a bunch of people so that they can help me stream from underwater. And I do want to do it one day, but this was like, wait a minute, I could start streaming underwater like right now.
Right.
So it was something that I absolutely had to jump on and do. And it's been like I managed to do a couple of those streams, and then the water went bad, and it's just been like, I stare at it every time I walk in, and into the office, and it's like, oh, just one more day, and I finally got the news. I'm so excited about heading out and giving it a shot, and hopefully, even if we don't see sharks, we're gonna see something cool, some kind of invertebrate, some kind of cool fish,
Someone in
something like
chat
that.
asked, how much does it cost? I was thinking the same thing.
Um, oh, so it's about 1,600.
Okay. That's not as much as I expected, actually.
Yeah, it's so the only other option that I know of is called a Trident, Trident ROV. Those are actually um, really popular with like the National Geographic Explorer group, and I know a lot of people have started using them for SciComm purposes and citizen science purposes as well.
Mhm.
But the issue with those is that the in order to get video out, that's that little remote there that you're seeing is like almost twice as expensive as this one.
Yeah.
This has a lot of different limitations, but for the money, it's incredible that I can go to 300 feet and
Yeah.
get an HD signal back
That is
from that
nuts.
thing.
I hadn't heard the audio. You were talking about audio, so I'm gonna listen to the audio on this clip. Because it is just you. It's you talking when you.
Oh yeah.
Too close because I don't want to get tangled up in them.
How
But
cool!
these
What a
are
cool
plumose
stream.
anemones right here.
And you can hear the water. That's so neat.
So plumose anemones are cnidarians. And cnidarians.
Eventually, the other thing
are
I'd really like to do
fascinating.
is
They're
so this is
the
all
phylum of cnidarians
here
include,
in
jelly.
Pardon?
sorry
No, go ahead.
sorry I forgot that the audio was playing. I can't hear the stream, so
No, you're good.
so this is all in cold water diving, and cold water tends to have very limited visibility. We definitely have some amazing creatures here, animals, all sorts of amazing invertebrates, nudibranchs. Like the life here is amazing, but I would love to take it to like a warm water location, like maybe Hawaii, or the Caribbean,
Mm-hmm.
and stream things like manta rays.
Yeah, manta rays are so cool.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think most people don't realize how big they are.
Oh, yeah.
And let me try to find a good picture of a manta ray. Here. Oh. Guys, look at this. Look at the size of this ray. Like, what on earth? Someone in chat asked, are there any animals that you're afraid of? I think they asked about underwater animals.
Underwater, no.
Okay.
Oddly enough, I'm not oddly, but I mean, I do have a couple phobias of things, just irrational fears.
Uh-huh.
But underwater, I've gone diving at night, which a lot of people look at me really strange. They go, "Why would you do that?"
That would scare the bejesus out of me.
Night diving is probably my favorite time to dive. There's so many cool things come out at night, especially giant Pacific octopuses. Most cephalopods are active at night,
Uh-huh.
and like I've had harbor seals sort of dive with me because my dive light is giving them easy snacks, and
Uh-huh.
they'll like hang out
Oh.
and make fun of me. They've pulled on my fins, and it's almost like they're laughing at us because they're like, you silly humans, you don't know how to swim. They look ridiculous out of water, but in water they're fast. And just I don't every most of my experiences underwater have been at night, the really memorable ones.
Huh.
Even in Hawaii, there's this amazing pelagic dive that you can do, where you go out on a boat off the continental shelf, so that you have about 2,000 feet of water underneath you, and then
Oh my gosh.
you're tethered for the sake of like trying to maintain your depth easily, because it's hard to do that in the dark without a point of reference.
Uh-huh.
But that's probably one of the most intense dives I've ever experienced, because all sorts of invertebrates, all sorts of ctenophores and jellyfish and schools of squid fly by, and it's amazing to see. And so yeah, I'm not afraid of stuff in the ocean. And I know that there's definitely um, things that I should be concerned about, but the amount of I'm more worried about driving to a dive site. I'm way more concerned
Interesting.
about the people on the interstate as I'm driving to driving to a dive site than I
Uh-huh.
am worried about anything that I'm going to find underwater.
Huh. Interesting. So you said underwater no. So on land, yes.
Well, okay, so it's one of those things where I understand and I appreciate and and respect spiders quite a bit, and I don't kick them out of my house. Like if they make a home in my house, as long as they're kind of like out of the way, I'm totally fine. But I have this small fear response every time I walk into like a spider web while
Sure.
I'm out bird watching, or I feel like something crawling on me,
Uh-huh.
and I want to change that like badly. I want to be calm enough to have a spider like in my hand or crawl on me or something
Uh-huh.
like that. And that's kind of like my phobia to defeat is arachnophobia.
Your
Um,
attitude, I've never heard someone with arachnophobia with such a beautiful, positive attitude about it. I love that. I love the way you're talking about that. That is so cool. Yeah, no, that's fair. That makes sense. I really like spiders. I've never had an issue with spiders. Um, things I used to have a weird thing with moths, which is weird because I think
Hmm,
most people
really?
moths and butterflies kind of go together. I've never had an issue
Yeah,
with butterflies, but I used to have a big issue with moths. I think I'm pretty much over it. But
interesting.
yeah, I used to not like them at all. Not sure
Yeah,
why.
huh.
there's
Yeah,
there's a there's a word for it. It's a phobia of moths and butterflies.
huh.
I don't think there's one for just moths, but I don't know. you know.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Well, yeah, they're all irrational, right? It's like
right.
it's this weird like brain circuit that's been associated with it that's not right. That you're not supposed to have that fear response, but yet you do, or at least an exaggerated fear response.
Right.
So yeah.
It was a while back, but Mystic Troll in chat asked if you ever, I think it was Mystic. You asked if he ever planned on doing streams with drones.
Like with aerial drones,
Yeah, I assume
I
so.
assume I've had an interest in doing that. I think there's a lot of challenges with aerial drones. So the biggest challenge is that if you want to be a responsible drone user, which I absolutely want to do that, I do own a drone for aerial photography purposes. The amount of places that you can fly a drone is very limited.
Mm-hmm.
They're banned in national parks. They're banned in state parks here
Mm-hmm.
in Washington. They're banned at Seattle parks. Pretty much the only places that you can fly them are in wilderness, in forest. Sorry, I'm forgetting, the national forest is where you can fly drones in like wildlife areas. And then there's the impact of the drone in terms of noise and how that impacts wildlife, which is always something in the back of my mind when I'm streaming. Is I do not want to impact wildlife at all. I
Right.
I I do my absolute best not to flush birds, especially in winter when food is scarce. If we're really far away, it's never about let's get closer, let's get closer, let's get closer, but
Mm-hmm.
let's just observe
Thank you so
from a
much.
distance where we don't impact their behavior. um, and I also want to be a good ambassador in terms of like streaming out in wild areas. I don't want to cause a nuisance. I don't want to generate any sort of ill will towards people who are trying to show Twitch or other streaming services wildlife. So it's really tricky. There's a very limited sort of window for drone streaming, I think. And then the other issue with drone streaming is that the batteries only last about 20 minutes,
Interesting.
20 to 25 minutes. And so it just becomes a situation where how often can you switch, like how many batteries you're going to carry with you to
Do they
switch
have,
out, just do like an hour stream.
do they have any drones that can be recharged with like solar? Is that a thing?
Not yet. The energy density is really really intense when it comes to the small sort of consumer drones that we use. It's all lithium ion, and so recharging that takes quite a bit of energy. There are there are specialized drone designs that are being put together where they're ultra light and they're geared towards staying up for long periods of time, and those are really cool. But in order to make them very very light, they sacrifice things like cameras and gimbals and transmitters and things like that. So
Right.
it'll be really interesting to see how the technology develops and the uses that can be adapted from drones. So, for example, aerial drones changed whale science completely because you can
Whale?
launch a
Whale
yeah
signs? Oh, okay.
yeah. So you can launch a drone and monitor pod sizes
Oh,
and identify individual whales, and watch their migration patterns, watch their behavior, and so like there are definitely very very good uses for drones in terms of like conservation and science, but in terms of streaming, I'm not sure it's kind of the right application at this point. Hopefully, maybe if they get like super quiet and have
I forgot
long,
about the noise. Yeah.
yeah, the noise is a big issue, and
Mm-hmm.
then also, and then just their battery length
Got
that
it.
changes over time. But that's the reason I also really wanted to. I was really game for the underwater ROV. Is it lasts 2 hours
Yeah.
and there's no issues with impact in terms of what it's doing to the environment.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you guys hear? Can you hear that? There's like a. I've literally never heard this before. I don't know what instrument that is, but they're singing. Or do you hear that?
I do.
What on earth?
Is that a recorder?
No, I don't think so. I think it's an actual person playing that. Okay, well the song's over. Anyway, it's a trumpet. Okay. Sorry. Okay, drone. Oh,
No.
it's kind of off topic, but the solar thing reminded me. I don't know if you watched any of the stream with Purple Martin Conservation, but we were talking about like the GPS tracking or
Right.
and how they have tiny little backpacks, like tracking backpacks
Yes.
that they put on their birds, and there are ones that are small enough to go on dragonflies that are recharged with
Right.
solar energy, which just blew my mind. I have not let that go. I swear I've said that to like at least a dozen people since that podcast. I just think it's insane.
Yes.
But yeah, sorry, that was off topic, but that's crazy.
No, I hadn't heard about the dragonflies until you mentioned it on that stream.
Dragonflies.
And I was just but yeah, I had the extreme fortune of being able to go to the International Ornithological Congress last year. It's this congress that only happens every 4 years, and it's like the ornithologist like con
Mm-hmm.
for people to go to, and it happened to happen in Vancouver, in British Columbia, and we managed to attend that, and in the kind of like vendor area,
Mm-hmm.
there was so many amazing there were those all of those different types of little GPS trackers with like SIM cards that were the size of a stamp, and then also like these monitoring stations, these bioacoustic monitoring stations that are using like machine learning to match what kind of bird song they're hearing and then report that back. And just all sorts of like anything that you could say like you're an ornithologist slash bird nerd. Here's the merchandise that you've been looking for.
Yeah, that's so cool. Where is that?
Um, so that was it changes every 4 years. So it happened in Vancouver in British Columbia, and then it happened in 2018. So in 2022, it's going to happen in Sydney, Australia.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah,
I've always wanted to go to Australia. Whenever anyone asks,
yeah.
like, if you could go anywhere, it would 100% Australia, just because there's so many cool,
Definitely.
weird things there.
Fairy wrens.
Yeah.
Fairy wrens. I need to.
Fairy wrens?
Fairy wrens. Yes.
I don't know what that is.
Oh, they're
cute.
The amazing little birds. There's
Oh my
so
gosh.
much. I mean, like that's one of many birds in Australia that I'd love to go and visit and check out.
Oh, that's so cool. What? They're so cute. Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay, let's see. What other clips am I missing here? Owls. Barn owl. We've watched a couple videos on barn owls on my stream here. About how quiet their flight is.
Yes.
Stuff like that. They're really, really cool. Here's oh, whoops. Here's this clip.
So this barn owl had been napping next to an intense a place where we go bird watching quite often, and it had sort of kind of gotten known in the birding community that there was this barn owl that was just nesting next to a path. And when we showed up, so barn owls are crepuscular, right? They hunt during the twilight and sunrise or before sunrise, but they're usually sleeping during the day. And we'd show up and we'd hang out and watch this sleepy barn owl. We actually got a really good close-up of its feathers. You were talking about how quiet they are. We could see the little vortex shredders, the little pins that would stick out on the feathers.
That's
which is
crazy.
why they're so quiet.
Yeah.
And then that clip was part of a kind of a larger moment that just happened. We were walking by the paparazzi of bird photographers. They were all taking pictures of this bird in its little sleeping kind of perch. And we walked far away from it and then turned around, and it woke up, flew out, and perched right next to us about 6 feet away.
How
and then
cool.
just kind of woke up there for a little bit, and that's where that clip came from.
That's awesome. Do you have a favorite owl?
Oh, that's so hard. Burrowing owls crack me up. Their faces.
Yeah.
Burrowing
They're
owls.
very expressive.
There was a recent video. I don't know if you saw it. It was going around on Twitter, where they set up a camera trap, and these burrowing owls like immediately noticed it, and they were like, "No, absolutely not. We're not going to have this camera trap here." But in terms of the owls that I've seen, I really love short-eared owls, and we've had an opportunity to see them on stream several times. Short-eared owls hunt during the day, at least here in this area, and so they
oh yeah, here's a clip. You sent me a clip of that.
Yeah, so short-eared owls are absolutely beautiful. They have these like intense eyes. They have this beautiful barring, and they're one of the few owls that you can see during the day. Essentially, they hunt in marsh and grassland areas.
Wow.
And this is from one of the areas that we go birding.
I was gonna say, yeah, if you cut off the head, it does kind of look like a barred owl, or its chest does. That's so neat. Look at those eyes! Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the eyes on short-eared owls are just so incredible, and so I love these. These are probably my favorites, and they visit every winter, so it's always a treat to go out and get a chance to see them.
Guys, I didn't mean actually cut off the owl's head. I mean if you put your hand on the screen and cover the head, like it looks like a barred owl. That's what I was saying. Relax. Thank you, Raven, for the $20. He said, "I love birds." Me too. So does Damien. $570.
Wow, thank you.
So cool, so cool. Okay, let's see. The next clip that I have here is Northern Harrier. Let me pull it up.
Yeah, so
Whoa, this light is so cool. Oh,
one of the
that was my
one of
bad.
the one of the treats of getting to spend so much time bird watching is like the frequency and the frequency of encounters with all of these sort of birds of prey. And all of the birds are amazing, but there's just certain moments where you don't get to you tend to not to be able to see certain species very often or up close, and just seeing their getting to experience this on a regular basis. So I just shared a couple of the kind of birds of prey that we've run into in the wild, and this was one of my favorites. Was
That's
these
so beautiful. The light looks so beautiful. So neat. Sorry, the dogs are. I said on my intro that this other second dog, she sleeps under my bed and then gets kind of stuck, so she's coming out of it. That's what that sound is. Okay, and then we looked at this other. Okay, we're backtracking a little bit. Not backtracking, going back to underwater stuff.
Right.
You sent this video. This was obviously this was not on stream, but is this a project that you did?
So it's less of a project and another one of those situations where something just kind of unfolded. And this was we didn't expect this at all. It was me and my dive buddy. We got into the water at a popular dive site, and this massive event was just happening all of a sudden around us. And it's one of two times where I've pretty much just sat in place. Usually when you're diving in cold water, so the water's about 45 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and you tend to want to move around because after a while you can get pretty hypothermic.
Right.
And so this is one of two times that I've just sort of sat immobile in the water with the sole focus of record everything that I possibly can, because what's happening is absolutely insane.
Yeah. Okay, let me play this video for them so they know what you're talking about. So these are opalescent squid?
Yeah, opalescent squid.
Here we go.
So this is a huge mating aggregation of opalescent squid. And so you have all of that cluster that you're seeing there. Those are squid egg sacs, and everything that's happening right here is it's all mating behavior. The males there with the red tentacles, they're using their chromatophores to flash red, so that other male squid stay away. And then the females will extrude an egg sac after it's been fertilized, and then they'll stick it onto that large cluster. So thousands and thousands of eggs are being attached to that cluster there. And this was just like, it was just unfolding in front of us, just having thousands of squid around us. And we spent until it was the limit sort of safety of we need to go because our air is out, and we need to have a safety stop so that we can off gas some nitrogen and get out of the water. That's but otherwise we would have just stayed there forever, I think.
Said, what's the white poof? I think these are eggs, is what you just said.
Yes,
correct?
Yeah, those are all egg sacs with thousands of eggs inside of them.
Thousands of eggs inside of each sac.
Yeah, probably more. Okay, so more like hundreds, I think would be better. But the cluster is definitely in the tens of thousands.
Wow. Where did you say this was again?
This was right here in the Puget Sound, off of a dive site that is near the city of Burien, Washington.
Wow.
In about 30 feet of water.
30 feet? That's it?
Yeah,
Huh.
That's it.
Oh, that is so crazy. And how long were you filming? How long were you under there?
I think we spent about an hour and 20, pretty much to the end of our tanks. So yeah, that
Thank you so much.
that and watching a giant Pacific octopus hatch are like and oddly enough, that giant Pacific octopus hatch also happened at that location. Now that I'm thinking about that, but yeah,
That would be so crazy.
those are the two major sort of memorable events that I have from being underwater, at least here in the Puget Sound. For those of you who don't know, giant Pacific octopuses will start off pretty much the size of a grain of rice and will grow to be about 14 feet across. That's one of the larger sizes, and about over 100 pounds of weight. They're beautiful, intelligent, incredible creatures, and that opalescent squid mating aggregation, and then the giant Pacific octopus hatch there, which is the image that like I use for my channel.
Oh, right. Let me pull that up. Someone just donated Rusty $3, thank you, and said, has he ever done any James Cameron style deep sea submarine dives?
I did actually get a chance to go on a submarine, oddly enough. It just sort of came through someone who knew me and wanted me to take some video of it, and I got to go down to like 700 or 800 feet here in the Puget Sound. It was a really, really cool experience. I can't share the video, unfortunately, but that was definitely a very memorable experience. Also, not a whole lot to see at about 500 feet. It's very murky.
Yeah.
But still, very, very cool.
That's awesome. Well, I'm trying to find that picture that you're talking about, but it's not. Yeah, I don't know where that is.
That's okay.
That's still really cool though. I have like no experience with anything. There's the second dog for those of you who are wondering. Yeah, I have like no experience. I have no experience diving. I've been snorkeling, right in California, and then in Okinawa, which is
Very cool.
really, really cool. The water's so clear there,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's that was really neat. But no, nothing with diving. I know nothing about the ocean. I've never really had an interest, but I wish I did. Because I see when people like you talk about it, it's like, gosh, like I wish I was that like excited about it and as passionate about it. But I've never really like hooked into the ocean or marine biology.
It's never too late. It's never too late.
That's true.
There's so much amazing diving to be done, just even along the West Coast, Monterey Bay, Orange County. There's Catalina Island.
Right. Yeah.
There's really, really cool places to dive.
So the other thing that you have here, adventures in birdwatching, looking for kiwis in New Zealand and birding in the jungle in Mexico. Jeez, that's so cool. I'm gonna pull up a picture of a kiwi here. Oh, I should have wrote bird also because she's got a bunch of the fruit. So you went to New Zealand.
Yes. So this was in the descending the rabbit hole of being really intensely serious about bird watching. So after bird watching sort of became a thing in my life, and my partner had introduced me to it, we just started vacationing, and vacations were always birding centric. And so we had an opportunity to go to New Zealand and visit a lot of amazing birding locations in New Zealand. And one of the things that I was really interested in is having an opportunity to see a brown kiwi.
Mm-hmm.
Kiwis are nocturnal birds. They're mostly blind. They have like a sense organ on their beak. They spend their time pretty much digging into the ground, looking for small invertebrates. And you typically don't get to see them because they're nocturnal, and they're also light sensitive. So it's not really a situation where people can go out with like flashlights and go check them out in the wild. But at the bottom of New Zealand, there's Stewart Island. So there's North Island, South Island, and then Stewart Island. And there's a place in Stewart Island called Mason Bay.
Mhm.
And Mason Bay is usually something like a 3-day hike to get to.
Mhm.
But there's other ways that you can get to that place. You can take like a boat up a tidal river, and it'll get you dropped off at the middle point. And there was this sort of maybe slightly common knowledge that if you go at the right time of day, and you hike along this trail, you might encounter a brown kiwi when it's not dark, and you might have an opportunity to maybe take a picture or something like that. Just getting an opportunity to see it would be
Right.
amazing.
Yeah.
And so I had to sort of we had to just decide, are we going to do this? Is this going to be a part of the birding adventures to travel from the South Island to Stewart Island, and then from Stewart Island take a boat up a river into the middle of this island, and then it was a 15-mile hike to Mason Bay in the mud because this was spring,
To maybe
and
see a kiwi.
to maybe see a kiwi. And this is also sort of like, oh, like I'm going to be serious about my wildlife photography, and I'm going to have a mission, and I'm going to do this. And I was trying to keep my expectations low, because what are the chances that this bird, this nocturnal bird, is going to walk by or be by the small narrow track going through this massive island that you're walking by, and that you're going to have a chance to see it. And we did. we got to see this and photograph this brown kiwi, and that was the moment that it was, I guess, like real for me. It was more like, this is a hobby, and this is sort of something that I enjoy doing, and it's really great to go and watch birds and take their pictures and stuff. But then that moment was like, this happened, and it was, we planned it as best as we could, and it was going to be random if it happened or not, but we put ourselves in the position as best as we could, and it happened, and I got my picture, and we got to watch this brown kiwi until it unfortunately got dark, and then we were hiking in the dark for another like 3 or 4 hours. But like that was the moment of realization that this is actually what I really want to do. I want to find a way to do this full time. I want to find a way to create some kind of impact with my work. I want to it created intent instead of just sort of taking pretty pictures,
Right.
And created sort of like a goal in mind that I could follow. Because the other thing about experiencing birds in New Zealand is that you realize that so many birds are highly endangered there. So they have, for example, the takahe. Takahes are these amazing flightless blue purple birds with a crazy beak, and they had previously been thought to be extinct. And it only happened that they found a population of them in a remote location of New Zealand. And getting to see a takahe in New Zealand was a really amazing experience.
That's
And
crazy.
and then you read about like stitch birds, and stitch birds were at that time, their numbers have increased, fortunately, but they were in the hundreds. We got a chance to see them in this sanctuary called Tiritiri Matangi, but they were less than 1,000 at that point.
Yeah.
And then things like not kias, kakapos. So sorry, no, not kakapos, kias.
Kias.
Yes,
I was gonna
kias.
ask about the kakapo though. Kia. Oh yes. Okay. I just recently found out that these exist.
Right.
I didn't know. I think I saw a picture of it, and I was trying to figure out if it was real because the colors underneath the feathers are unbelievable. Like it looks like a gray bird for the most part, or like a green gray bird, but then it's got crazy colors.
Yeah, and they're alpine parrots essentially, which is amazing.
So cool. Did you see any of those New Zealand parrots?
I
What
did.
was it? Kakapo? Kaka?
I didn't get a chance to see kakapos,
Mm-hmm.
which are also fairly threatened. Kias, I think, are less of an issue conservation wise, but kakapos are uh, going through a pretty intense conservation effort in New Zealand.
These are so cool. Um, Guys, there are three superfamilies of parrots, and New Zealand parrots are one superfamily in and of itself, as they're so different and so unique. But yeah, this is what I think of when I think New Zealand is this bird. That's so cool. Someone donated a while ago and asked, "What is your favorite experience with an animal encounter?" I think you kind of already was it the octopus, or do you have a different one?
No, I think the octopus encounter. So so the thing about the octopus encounter is that I've had several encounters with octopus where they're extremely intelligent animals. They're very curious. Um, you don't want to really. I have a very strong policy about not touching wildlife
Mm-hmm.
in the wild, and especially when it comes to um, giant Pacific octopuses, you don't really want to interfere or touch. But if you hang out, they can become curious about you, and they'll come over and they'll investigate. And so I've had several sort of encounters with octopuses like that. They're immensely intelligent, but they're also, I mean, there's so much stuff about giant Pacific octopus, but they're terminal breeders, so they only live to about 4 years. And uh, when when a female lays eggs, they find a den. They attach all of their eggs to the roof of the den, and then they will spend, depending on the water temperature, they can spend up to 6 months just very carefully siphoning water over the eggs, keeping them oxygenated, keeping them clean, keeping them sort of protected from small predators like crabs. And the female octopus will do this without leaving the den and without going to find any sort of food. And it will do this for 6 months or so until the eggs hatch, and then she dies.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just one of those like really intense kind of life changing experiences when you find a den that's at a reasonable depth, because they don't necessarily have to they don't necessarily nest in dens that are at shallow depths. So first, the pure chance of finding a den, and then seeing that it's just been occupied. Um, it you know that you're going to watch this female octopus take care of these eggs for the next 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
which we did. So we found it when it was relatively new, and so we just kept on visiting, making sure that it was okay and it was still there, because they can very often not be successful. Large fishes like um, get a blank on the name right now, but we have several predatory fishes that will eat octopuses and their eggs, and so it's common for a den to disappear.
Mm-hmm.
And this one just kept going, and it was fairly deep, but it was accessible. And then one day we heard through the vine that hatching was happening. Hatching happens over a period of about 2 or 3 days, the main event. And we went down there, and it was that time where we just sort of sat in place and just watched for more than what we should have. It was one of those things where we actually brought not more than we should have, but we brought specialized air, so enriched oxygen air. So um, for those, it's very common to well, anyways, that's diving stuff. I won't even get into that. Anyways, we spent the entire time there watching these little rice grain sized octopuses hatch and leave like they essentially just float out of the den and get carried away on the current, and they hatch by the thousands.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're sort of watching this moment where thousands of giant Pacific octopuses the size of a grain of rice are coming out of this den, and you also know that the octopus that you've watched for the last 6 months is probably dying or dead.
Right.
And it's just
How
one of those
conflicting.
it's a really, really powerful moment.
Yeah.
It's the only way that I can describe it. It leaves a mark, and it's something that you want to share. You want people to experience as well, because it's just it's kind of hard to put in words, I suppose, but beautiful is the
Yeah.
only way. Beautiful. And so yeah, getting to watch those little baby octopuses, because they are they're going to float off and end up sort of at the they'll start off in the plankton bloom that I was talking about, where they'll float near the surface
Mhm.
and eat small, tiny little zooplankton, and eventually they'll grow large enough where they'll settle down to the bottom, and then they'll walk around in the bottom and grow to be from a grain of rice to up to 14 feet in size, over 100 pounds.
They're over
And so it's
100
just
pounds?
yeah, they can, yes, they're absolutely
What?
massive.
Oh my gosh.
I've
Aren't they, like, dangerous? Aren't they very dangerous?
No.
They're not?
No. I mean, they can certainly so several times there have been situations where photographers will come up to their den, right, and they have bright lights going and or flashes or that sort of thing, and the strength in their arms is absolutely massive. And so these, especially the larger ones, they can get annoyed, and they actually they'll display annoyance by a sort of so they have chromatophores that can change color and size, and so they can morph the texture of their skin and the patterns on their skin.
Right.
And so they'll display annoyance by like an X through an X stripe through their eyes. And if you don't pick up on that they're annoyed, that they don't want to be photographed right now, several photographers, a couple people that I know, have had their whole rig ripped out of their hands, and then the octopus is like, "This is mine now, and you need to go away."
Oh my gosh.
um, eventually they let go, and a photographer can recover. One of my dive buddies had it was kind of like a metal rig that had their GoPro on it, and the octopus was strong enough to bend it was an aluminum arm, and it bent the aluminum arm when it yoinked this away in frustration. But they're not dangerous. I think and as a perfect kind of educational moment, there's been a picture rolling around on Twitter, right, of a lady with an octopus. She put it on her face,
Uh-huh.
and then the octopus ended up biting her. And so
I forget. Yeah, that's right. They have beaks. A lot of people forget about that. Huh?
yes, and so it's important. It's so a good moment to share is that so octopuses have radullas, beaks. They're very sharp. They use those beaks to drill through the shells of clams, and then sorry, I called not the beak, but then they have essentially a barbed tongue, a radula, and that they will put through the hole that they've drilled with their beak, and then inject essentially a neurotoxin, a muscle relaxant that relaxes whatever clam or mussel or whatever they're drilling into, so that the shell pops open and they can eat it. Um,
What on earth?
so they only bite if they are angry and annoyed, and they're going to get angry and annoyed if you take them out of the water and put them on your face.
I'm trying to find a
So
good picture of an octopus beak here.
don't do that.
Don't do that?
Don't put an octopus on your face.
Oh, right. No, sorry. I thought.
No, no,
Yeah.
no. But other than that, I think it's just a matter of, like, with most animals, just approach respectfully. Don't touch. Don't feed. And yeah, there we go.
That's no joke. I mean, that looks like a
Yeah.
bird beak.
Right.
That's
Yes.
that's scary. Do you have any
And
idea what the bite force is on that? I should look it up.
I don't. I will say though that is the limiting factor for the space that they can fit through. So as long as the beak can fit through whatever sort of hole or structure that they need to get through, they can get through it, despite being how large they are, and that's what makes them really, really great escape artists from aquariums. So
Yeah.
there's all sorts of stories of GPOs here, like in the Seattle Aquarium, where they'll like overnight they'll manage to escape from their enclosure and go and snack on crabs, and then go back to their enclosure,
Oh
and
my
then
gosh.
the next day somebody walks in and they're like, what happened? Where are the crabs? And then the octopus is like, over here in their enclosure, like, I didn't do anything. And then eventually they had to set up a camera, and at night they watched this octopus slowly make its way across the floor and
Oh my
get
gosh.
into the crab enclosure. It's
What the heck? That is so bizarre. I forget about how smart octopuses are.
Yeah, they are massively smart. They can solve all sorts of puzzles. They can manipulate objects in very complex ways. They've been known to be, they're very expressive. They'll express annoyance. They can squirt water with their siphon, to kind of like shoo off birds, for example.
Jeez.
There's yeah they have a lot of sort of expressive behavior that way.
So, your experience with scientific diving, is this
Mm.
what is scientific diving and how
Ye-
did you get into that?
Yeah. So scientific diving, when you get into diving, you start as a recreational diver, and that's teaches you all the basics. So like things like you're not actually breathing oxygen, you're breathing air. Air is only 21% oxygen, and the rest is nitrogen. You constantly hear that, like in newspapers and stuff, like the oxygen tank. Nobody breathes oxygen when they go diving, except under extremely specialized circumstances. But anyways, you you learn everything about sort of the basics of diving, and then you get a certification card and you can go and do your dives. Um, but then there's the other sort of opposite side of that, which is commercial diving, and commercial diving is way, way, way more intense. There's all sorts of safety training. There's liability issues. There has to be a recompression system on board a ship that's doing commercial diving. There's workplace safety regulations, OSHA, all that sort of thing. Commercial diving is incredibly, incredibly dangerous. And so the issue is, how do you take divers that are experienced and you put them on a vessel and have them go and do science for research organizations or for universities? And how do you avoid having all of the onerous, not onerous, but having to deal with all of the safety regulations that don't make it recreational diving, but would maybe be considered commercial diving. And so about 30 years ago, the American Academy of Underwater Sciences came together as just a congregation, an aggregate of aquariums, zoos, universities, and they created a self-regulating program where you can get trained as a scientific diver, and it includes things like rescue diving. So you have to be a competent rescue diver. That's a whole series of training. You have to be a certified advanced diver. You have to, and then you also learn everything about things like operating an underwater drill, securing experiments underwater,
Mm-hmm.
how to use, how to create transects for surveys, how to use lift bags to lift up what may be potentially very heavy items from underwater. There's all sorts of things that you learn. Also, how do you safely do blue water diving where you don't have a bottom or any kind of reference, and you're doing pelagic surveys. Um, and so you go through all of this training to obtain an AAUS scientific diving certification,
Mm-hmm.
which then provides uh, I guess liability coverage and there's a lot of it that just ends up providing a clear path for getting people on research vessels and doing scientific diving work without it having to be considered commercial diving.
Yeah.
And so I had the opportunity to spend about 4 months in a scientific diving course, thanks to some diving acquaintances that managed to get me into the program. Um, and that was an amazing opportunity. That was uh, a window into what I'd like to continue doing, which is both on land and underwater, do at least not only just do, but also share and communicate research and what's happening at a scientific level with either diving or on the surface.
Yeah. That's so cool. So were you doing research then as a scientific diver or assisting in it or?
Yeah, so there's actually a requirement in order for you to do some kind of project that you can determine. So we came up with a couple projects. We came up with one project where um, over time I had noticed diving at this particular site. We have a beautiful type of soft coral here called a sea pen, and they're not as common as they used to be. They're a really good indicator of a healthy substrate. And the thing that I noticed about this dive site is that on these sea pens there were what's called a giant sea spider. It's not giant, and it's not actually a sea spider, but they're called that. They're arthropods, and they're very very tiny, very difficult to uh, to spot, and they're really kind of they're sort of fascinating to me. Yeah, because they actually um, they don't they breathe by diffusion. So
What
so
does that even mean?
as 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 water passes through by their tissue, they actually absorb oxygen from the water that way.
Huh.
They don't have any way of it's just gas exchange through their tissue,
That's so
their exposed
cool.
tissue. And so I noticed these giant sea spiders hanging out on our sea pens, and I'd never seen sea spiders anywhere else. And so
Mm-hmm.
we posed the question: is there a relationship between um, the population of sea spiders and the population of sea pens? Because that
Mm-hmm.
area also happened to have a lot of sea pens. So that was the focus of the project that we did, and we did surveys and we did a transect. Um, Unfortunately, we had to change the we couldn't finish that project. We had to sort of change at the last moment, um, uh, just because of like the project requirements, the ultimate sort of the number of dives that we had to do in order to get the data that we had didn't fit into the limits of what we were able to dive at the time, because
Mm-hmm.
they're very careful about what depths you go to, how many dives you make. There's a lot of safety concerns when it comes to scientific diving. You have to have a contact plan and an emergency plan, and you have to have emergency oxygen on site, all sorts of things. And so it just made the logistics of completing the project. We unfortunately couldn't complete it, but we had to change that, and we did. Still really fun, still really cool. We did a full site survey for a dive site that was essentially new, that nobody had ever gone diving at, and we spent some time doing a complete site survey there, and cataloging all of the species in that place.
That's so cool. You've done a lot of really, really cool stuff. That's awesome. Is there anything else that I think we pretty much went through this document. Is there anything else, like, off the top of your head that you feel like talking about or want to share?
Yeah, so I think I'll just share sort of my my experience with science communication, and going to science talk, and kind of what I would like to what I see from that in terms of the parallels with Twitch, and what I'd like to accomplish, if that's okay. If I
Yeah,
just
please. That's awesome.
So I when I started streaming on Twitch to do this, I didn't really have a clear view of like where I was going. What does this turn into other than a birdwatching stream, which is awesome, and I love doing it, but do we have some place to take this to?
Thank you
And
so much.
I started paying attention to science communicators on Twitter, and understanding sort of what that involved, what was the intent, what are the methods, what is science communication, right? And then eventually, from the people that I followed, so, like, the best thing that I've ever done on Twitter was just follow like all the ornithologists and all of the zoologists, anybody who
Yeah.
has like, you know,
That's what I'm doing
heard you,
too. Yeah.
I heard you talking about that on the Purple Martin conservation podcast. Was that you know, you follow all these people, and then suddenly your timeline is just full of like amazing
So
research and
cool.
pictures from the field, and
That's how I found
whatever.
the last guest on my podcast. Was I just like, I followed a bunch of random people and I read one of her papers and I retweeted it. And then I needed a guest and I was like, "Hey, I read your paper a while ago. Like, you want to come
Yeah,
on the podcast?" Yeah, so cool. So cool.
yeah, and so I found from their from the messages that they were posting that there was going to be a science communication conference in Portland, which is 3 hours away from me, and I was like, this is the thing that I have to do. Let's go and do it. I signed up, and I went to the conference, and had an opportunity to meet all of these amazing people. I listened to some amazing talks about effective science communication, how people are using tools to communicate science. And the lessons that I came away from that were, it was interesting how it overlapped with Twitch as a platform. One of the things that was really underlined constantly at this convention was how you just talking about facts, just spouting facts at people, doesn't really accomplish much.
Right.
You have to find a way to connect with somebody, to understand their interests, their curiosity, what it is that they want to learn about, and what kind of community they come from, and then to build a community around the desire to learn. And this is coming from experienced science communicators up on stage. That's Twitch. That's Twitch right there, is building a community of people who are engaged with your content, who are interested in what you're doing, and then taking that to a point where you can hopefully share information, and everybody ends up learning. And that was, I mean, that was like one of the main things that they were sorry, I guess my door is ringing.
No worries.
I'm gonna go ahead and ignore that. But so the that underlining of community, of creating a culture of understanding, instead of just, that was the thing that really started to click with Twitch. Is so much of wildlife photography and videography, you put out a picture and you put out a video, and it gets a like, and or it gets retweeted or whatever, but the engagement of that person stops there. And then with Twitch, you have people who become interested, and then they keep coming back, and then they spend time in chat, and then you get to know them, and you get to know where they come from, and what sort of things they're interested in, and that informs your community and your stream. And so it's this like positive feedback loop that keeps happening,
Yeah.
and you end up with this great situation where people are sticking around and people are listening. And that's, I mean, like you're doing that with this amazing community that you have here. Is you have all these people who are listening to all these fantastic conservation casts, and hopefully engaging and learning, and eventually maybe making changes in their own life.
Yeah.
I think the positive feedback that I keep getting from people is when people come to me and they say, I had never been outdoors, I'd never been bird watching before, and I watched your stream and I went and bought some binoculars, and now I go bird watching all the time.
Yeah.
And that was when the first person who told me that was the thing that convinced me completely. I was like, yes, I have to do this. I have to
Yeah.
keep doing this, because someone started bird watching. And if you start bird watching, then hopefully you start paying attention to all of the biodiversity in your neighborhood or in your park, in your general area, and then you start going, how can I protect this? What you become involved. You care because it's your experience, as opposed to just someone saying, please care, here's this information.
Right. Yeah,
And
people love learning together. Thank you so much, Monkey. Monkey's donated $100 this podcast.
Oh,
Thank you so much.
thank
He
you.
said bird watching is cool. I'm glad you think so. Yeah, totally. People love learning together. I think that there's a really the community aspect is super important for learning. Yeah, that's awesome. That sounds like such a cool conference.
Yeah. The other thing I'll just mention, I actually I had to bring out my notes because I wrote something down that I think applies to Twitch very, very well. It's this thing that was mentioned in one of the talks, and I specifically wrote it down because it said the best way to avoid burning out as a science communicator is to create a community that you want to be part of. And that's I think that that's really key to engaging with people here on Twitch, and continuing a sort of mission of science communication and education on Twitch is again that community aspect. But I just wanted to read that one because that's has a lot to do with yourself as a science communicator and as a streamer, so that you want to be part of that community.
Yeah. You really got me thinking about that. I've never thought of it like that. I've never thought of how important the community aspect is. You look at, like, if you look at anything that, like any science community or any community where people are really passionate about something, right? Like sports teams or bird nerds, or, you know, they all like to come together and like geek out about stuff like that. So that's a huge deal. That's really interesting. I'd never thought about why Twitch is like an effective tool for that, but that's really cool.
I was a little bit, I think maybe a little bit too intense with people at the convention, because so there's this pitch, this sort of pitch session where they said, come up on stage and you have 60 seconds to throw out a pitch. And what I had noticed is there were a lot of people who are using YouTube. There's a lot of people who are using Twitter. There's a lot of people who are using Instagram for their science communication, but pretty much nobody talked about Twitch.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm gonna go up on stage and say, hey, by the way, Twitch is not just for gaming. There's a large educational community. It's growing,
right? And
you get to engage with your audience actively all the time. And you should, if you have any questions, come and talk to me. And I had so many people after that like come up to me and was like, what?
That's so great. I'm so glad you were there.
I thought Twitch was, every single person came up to me and goes, Twitch is for gaming. What are you talking about? And then when I sort of went on the intense sales pitch about why, they're like, yeah, okay, that sounds really cool. And I got at least a couple people, I think, really, really engaged, and I'm hoping that they'll join the educational community here and launch their own sort of streaming. But yeah, that was an amazing experience going to that
That's
convention.
Awesome.
And that convinced me that's where I want to take the stream. So right now it's very light on the science communication. There's a lot of 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 learning that I have to do on my part so that I can be a more effective communicator while I'm streaming. And there's a lot more that I see other like Twitch in general that we can do to sort of integrate science communication into streaming. But that's where I want to take the channel, and that's where I'm going to focus all the effort in the channel, is to build it as a platform for science communication.
That's awesome. I love that. But oh gosh, I love hearing language like that to explain to people, because I'm super new to Twitch as a whole, you know. So me explaining what I do on Twitch is always a struggle, or the podcast and how it's different, and for me too, having guests like you is fantastic. I mean, they're all fantastic. Having guests like you and like Connor from American Eagle is great, because you guys are both on Twitch and you kind of understand how the chat works and stuff like that. But other people that I've talked to that, you know, are conservationists or run organizations or things like that have no idea, you know, like what Twitch. I mean, I've had to walk people through downloading Discord, you know, so we can do this call. It's like a whole new world, but I think there's a lot of potential in it, you know.
Yes.
Conservationists, I think I'm new to the world of conservation, but from what I've seen, they've struggled with outreach, right, and social media and stuff like that. But it's so important, because we need to, you know, bring up the next generation of conservation leaders, especially now.
Definitely.
You know, with the state of our natural world. But yeah, I'm super excited to be on here, you know, doing this. I'm excited to meet people like you, you know, and that there are other people that are trying to do the same thing.
Yeah, so. No, this is awesome. Thank you again for having me on. This is such a fantastic idea, and I'm so grateful to your community for raising all that money for Hawkwatch. That's absolutely amazing. Thank you.
$709, guys. So cool. Thank you so much, everybody that donated. This is awesome. Thank you, chat, for being so nice. Being so smiley. Giddy with $50, $760 for Hawkwatch. Wow. Giddy, thank you so much. He said, amazing guest, okay, champ. They really liked you. I've seen a bunch of comments about your voice. You do have a very soothing, nice voice. That's true. You should do a podcast or an audiobook or something. It's so relaxing.
There is, I think that's a little bit about it. The challenge of science communication is I get excited and I want to talk about the bird and what we're seeing and their behavior. I do know that there's a portion of people who tune in for the voice thing is really surprising, because I think most people don't like to hear their voice, right? Because they hear the resonance and they go, oh, that sounds good, and then they hear the recording, they're like, that's terrible. And that's been a surprise, a pleasant surprise, but I've embraced it. Hey, great. I'm glad that my voice isn't annoying. The other thing that's really funny is people have gravitated to what they call gravel ASMR. Apparently, my crunching of the gravel with my boots while we're out and about, apparently people really love gravel ASMR. And so there's this balance to be played between the people who are tuning in for that kind of chill experience of listening to ambient audio of the birds and the crunching of the gravel and the calm sort of voice, and then to try and balance that with like my excitement of like, oh, it's a bald eagle, it's so cool. I'm like, shh, calm it down.
That's so funny. I 100% know what you're talking about. Like, through watching your streams, there are a lot of very nice sounds in your streams. It's very relaxing. That's so cool. I love that. Everybody, I've seen seriously so many things in chat just about your voice. Just that they really love your voice. So you got that going for you. I hate hearing my voice, particularly singing. Singing voice. Okay, here. We had Citrus, who made my start screen, made this for you. This is a thank you from everybody who was watching. Here, let me get this out of the way.
Cool.
Thank you, Damien, for being you. And here's a bunch of people in chat. That's so nice, you guys. I love these. That's so sweet. Oh, look, it's a Stellar Jay, too.
Oh, there is a stellar jay. That's so great. Thank
That's so
you.
sweet. Thank you so much, Citrus, for making that for us. I appreciate that.
My
I'll send that to you.
Please do. I'd love that.
Yeah, that's so sweet. Thank you so much for coming on, and thank you for teaching us about Hawkwatch and sharing all that about your equipment. So cool. If you do underwater streams, please, I want to know. And I'm
Absolutely.
sure everybody here wants to know. So yeah, we're looking forward to that. And thank you for all the clips and all that. It's so cool.
Yeah, thank you again so much for having me on. Thank you so much to your community again for all the support and all the it's incredibly welcoming community. Thank you for that.
We just got one more. Angel tip $20.
Oh,
Said,
awesome.
love your passion. What a great cause. Thank you so much. So we're at $780 for Hawkwatch, you guys. So cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you again, Damien. I will send you that. Is there anything else that you want to talk about or want to share before we close up?
No, thank you again.
Of course. Okay, I'll talk to you soon. I'll send you this thing.
All right, awesome.
Okay, bye.